Daniel from Wolverhampton Music Service, and in this video I'll be looking at the Clarinet Grade 2 study Tyrolean Banquet. I'll start off by looking at some of the technical points of playing this piece. Then I'll be performing it at a slower tempo so you can play along as you're learning the piece, and then performing it again at the quicker tempo. Now, Tyrolean Banquet is a nice piece in the low register, and it has several examples of the lowest note, low E, with a low G in front of it and a low G after it. That happens each time. Now, I was playing low E with right hand little finger on the furthest upper key and left little finger on the inside top key. Now you can also play low E with just your right hand little finger. You can use it with the lowest or underneath furthest right hand little finger key. Now it's really important to remember when you play low E with your little fingers, keep the other fingers firmly in place without moving on the other finger holes, including your thumb as well. And then you're more likely to get a really good sounding low E. Now this piece has lots of long slurred phrases which are very smooth. All these notes joined up in one breath for each slur. So you have to tongue the first note of the slur and of course any notes that don't have slurs over them at all. So that's the first note of the piece, and then when you get to the open G in bar 3, you tongue that note as well. So I'll just play the first phrase. Now I was playing that a little bit slower than the marked tempo, but you could hear the tongue on the first note and on the open G. So you need to take deep breaths for these long phrases all the way through the piece, and you can breathe at the end of bars which have a semi-breve or 4-beat note, or at the end of bars where the last note is a minim or 2-beat note. Any of those points you can breathe quite easily, but remember to take a deep breath each time. Now, in addition to tonguing the first note of slurs, you also need to tongue even more firmly the notes that have got a little arrow underneath, which is the sign of the accent. So those notes must be tongued very firmly and sound even louder. So you have some of those halfway through the piece in bars 15 and 16. And then again a bit later in bars 23 and 24 with high open G, D and low G. And then right again at the end of the piece for the last two notes on C. So I'll just demonstrate the one towards the end, going from play from bar 21 to bar 24. So those last three notes must be really punched out. Now there are just a few note and fingering points I want to mention. The first one is in the first phrase where you go from A to F sharp. You have to go smoothly, rolling your first finger off the A key onto the F sharp key. So that must be done smoothly so that you don't hear any other note in between or any other sound in between those two notes. You can use the side of your first finger to help you roll down onto the first finger hole. Now you've got to look out for both F sharps and F naturals in this piece, and there's one point when they both come together in bar 22 with the F natural followed by the F sharp, so you've got to be very careful going from thumb to first finger, again very smoothly so that you don't hear any other sound or note in between. So if I just play that bar, Now you can also do F sharp a different way by pressing down 2 side keys with your first finger on the right hand, keeping your thumb down on the thumb hole for the F natural, and then add those the bottom 2 side keys with the side of your first finger. Now just a phrase to look out for, and that is the very last phrase, where you've got to go down to low G and jump up to open G and back down to C right at the end. That seems to catch people out quite often, so make sure you practice that one. I'll just play the last phrase, the last 4 bars. Now I'm going to play the whole piece a bit slower than the marked speed so that you can play along with it as you're learning it. Now it's actually in 2 beats in a bar because the time signature says 2-2. That's 2 minim beats in a bar. Now we always think of a minim as a 2-beat note, but here it's 1 beat, which means that the crotchets are all half. So that means there are 2 crotchets in every beat. So it does go a bit quicker than it looks. So I'm going to count 2 and then you know when to start. 1, 2. I'm now going to play it at a faster tempo, not quite the 136 minim beats per minute that's marked on the copy, but instead at 126 beats per minute. That sounds a lot slower, but actually it is still quite fast. And that tempo will be fine for the exam because it still sounds like a fast 2 beats in a bar piece. If you have a metronome or a metronome app, then you'll be able to hear the difference between the two, 126 and 136. And you can go a little bit faster than this speed if you want to for the exam. Now I'm going to play it with the metronome click, so you'll hear that click all the way through the piece. That's the one at 126. And there will be 4 clicks or 2 bars of clicks before I start playing. So I hope you enjoy learning and playing that piece, and don't forget to look out for further video releases from the Wolverhampton Music Service. Thank you.